Welcome to the series where I test out money-making methods from the OSRS Wiki. Feel free to leave suggestions on which moneymaker you'd like to see next. And also, if you didn't already know, I have a nice playlist that I've created that has all of the previous moneymakers that I've already tried, so go ahead and check it out if you haven't already. With that being said, let's get into the video. So for today's video, I thought we'd go ahead and mix it up a little bit and go back to the wilderness to try out a moneymaker. You guys have been asking for some wilderness boss videos, and I decided to do Callisto since getting Callisto would be a pretty sick pet. I think out of all the wilderness bosses, Callisto is by far my favorite. Now, I've said in previous videos before that some moneymakers wouldn't really benefit from a 1-hour video because they rely on a certain drop to make up most of the profit per hour. Callisto being one of them. The dragon pickaxe is pretty much most of the money that you're going to make here in terms of drops. So I decided to do 10 hours instead of the normal 1 hour. Now, I won't be doing 10 hours for every single moneymaker I do, but the ones that have a big drop such as Callisto, I will consider making a longer video for those. With that being said, we can now go ahead and jump into the gear setup that I use for this. I am wearing full proselyte for the prayer bonus, along with the Arty Cape 4, which also gives us some prayer bonus and some stab bonus. I am wearing the helm of Naetsnot, and I'm using the Vigorous Chain Mace that is powered by the Revenant Ether. I'm also using an Avernic Defender, which I bought for this very video. The first couple kills I did, I was actually using the Dragon Defender, but then I decided to upgrade. As for the boots, I'm using Dragon Boots, and for the gloves, I am using Barrow's Gloves. And I'm not wearing a ring here, but I was using the Ring of Wealth Imbued. And I brought that because it collects the coins that Callisto drops, and it also gives us a better chance at receiving an elite clue scroll. As for the inventory, I'm bringing 2 super combat potions, Divine, 1 antidote, 1 angler, a couple Ceradome brews, and I'm also using some blighted super restores. Now again, for the first couple kills, I was actually using regular super restores, but then I found out about the blighted super restores that were added with the new bounty hunter rework, and these are much cheaper than regular restores, so I highly recommend using these. Just keep in mind that these blighted super restores can only be used in the wilderness. Now, as for getting to Callisto, I was using the Anacaro teleport that I have in my house, but you can also use the wilderness crab teleport that you see in my inventory. I believe you buy those from LMS. They're quite expensive, although they are a lot cheaper than what they were a couple days ago. I feel like they were around 30k before, but now they're around 15k. Now, as for luring Callisto, I use a magic longbow with iron arrows. I shoot him once and then I walk over to this tree. Here at this tree, I wait between 3 to 4 seconds before moving. That way Callisto can follow me and I can lure him properly. And then I run over to this square and I wait for Callisto to run between those 2 middle squares that you see towards the north. And here someone logged in and they interrupted, but as you can see, Callisto is in between those tiles, and now I move to the next tile and I can run over to this last yellow tile where the person who stole my kill is. Once you walk to that tile, you can safely kill Callisto and he will not be able to hit you back. And since this guy so rudely interrupted my video, I decided to attack him. I thought maybe I could scare him away since he was a low level, but he did bring some gear to fight back, so it didn't end up going too well. Now, believe it or not, this was actually the only time that I had Callisto stolen from me, so it shouldn't happen too often. And since this was kind of scuffed, I'll go ahead and link the video that I used to learn this safe spot. But yeah, that is pretty much the entire method of luring Callisto and killing Callisto. It's pretty chill, aside from the fact that you are in the wilderness for the entire time, but it's not that bad once you get used to it. The reason why I chose to do this moneymaker was because DMM has recently started, and in my head I was thinking, you know what, most of the PKers are probably over there playing that game mode, so the wilderness should be a little more safe, and I couldn't have been more wrong. There were so many PKers throughout this 10 hours. As you can see here, I'm already getting attacked. This was before I even got my first kill, so yeah, this was a reoccurring theme throughout the video. Thankfully though, tanking isn't too hard, especially since I brought some Black D'hide and the Den's Bulwark. I gotta say, the Den's Bulwark is extremely overpowered. It gives you such great defense bonuses and it makes it really easy to get away. Now back to the topic of DMM, I was gonna try it out, but the day of the release I logged in and I DC'd about 4 or 5 times within 30 minutes, so I decided that it probably wasn't best to do it because I'd probably end up getting really frustrated, dying to a disconnection in DMM and losing a bunch of items and a bunch of stats. So instead I decided to mess around in the wilderness on the main game because I thought there was going to be less people, but to be honest, this place is still packed. And I used both worlds. I used regular worlds with no skill totals, and I used worlds that had high skill total worlds, and there's people everywhere. It doesn't matter what world you choose, there are going to be PKers on every single world. And as you can see, I am being attacked by 2 players. This tends to happen a lot. One person will be on Ancients to freeze, and then the other will be on Standard Spellbook to land a teleblock, which this is why it's very important to have Mage up all the time. That way you can get a half TB, because there was a couple escapes where I wouldn't have been able to make it out if I had been full TB'd for 5 minutes. As for the tanking strategy, you basically just run down here to the green dragons, and there's just so many of them that you can easily get a box on one of them. It's also important to note that you need to take off your Din's Bulwark, because I was trying to attack the dragon with it, and since I have it set to the defense option, it actually doesn't attack, so he was actually almost able to tag the dragon off of me and then attack me again. Also make sure that your attack options are set to always right click or on hidden, that way you don't accidentally skull. Now I was pretty excited to find out that the chance at getting the Callisto Cub is actually a 1 in 2,000 drop rate. I was under the assumption that it was a 1 in 3k, so when I heard that I was even more motivated to do this video. As for the other drops that Callisto has, he or she, I don't know if it's a girl or not. I felt like it was a girl, but in the wiki it says that it's a he. Anyways, Callisto has a tyrannical ring on the drop table, which is a 1 in 512 drop rate. It's really not worth too much, but if you do land on it, it would be nice for the collection log. And as you can see here, I am getting attacked once again, but after putting on the Din's Bulwark and the Black D'hide, the PKer just up and left. So I think they realized that if somebody has the Din's Bulwark, they're really not going to do too much damage unless they bring the proper gear, so a lot of the time just putting on the gear will scare them away, which I thought was pretty funny. And here you can see after about 50 kills I decided to upgrade to the Avernic Defender. For the longest time I didn't have it just because I didn't think it was worth the money, but I wanted that extra DPS since Callisto is very tanky. Sometimes Callisto can be killed in like 30 seconds, and then sometimes you're there for 2 minutes just swinging your chain mace and not doing any damage whatsoever. So that, along with the amount of times that PKers show up, can impact your kills per hour pretty greatly. I gotta say though, it is nice to have the Avernic Defender. I think it looks very nice, especially with the Vigorous chain mace. And here you can see we got our first elite clue scroll at kill count 79. I did end up doing the clue scroll, but I'm probably not going to open it for this video because I would like to save it for another clue scroll video. I'm getting pretty close to unlocking the reward that you get after completing 200 elites, so I'll be saving it for a video on that later on. And that is 100 kills logged, and shortly after we did get the Dragon 2-hand sword, which I was pretty upset about because the Dragon 2-hand sword is more rare than the Dragon pickaxe, and it is worth far less. The Dragon 2-hand sword is worth around 100k, while the Dragon pickaxe is worth around 5 mil, so that was pretty upsetting. And this is by far the closest that I came to dying. This was in a 2200 total world, so these guys were both maxed out. And since I wasn't praying accordingly, I was just kind of hoping that they wouldn't hit with melee through my shield. I was mainly just praying between mage and range. Mage whenever I was on the run, and then range whenever they froze me. Out of all the times that I got PK'd, these guys were definitely the most knowledgeable. They knew to hit Venenatus off, and then of course they were freezing the green dragons as best as they could. I still, however, was able to get a box on one of these dragons, but it was extremely close. I was poisoned and I only had 1 brew left, so they definitely could have gotten me if they had a little bit better RNG. So good fight to those guys. Because of how close this was, you might want to consider bringing anti-fire with you so that you can tank against the dragons, because the dragons do hit very hard. They can hit 40s, and if they kill you, if they finish you off, the PKers will get the loot. And shortly after returning, I couldn't even get one kill before I was attacked again, but luckily the Din's Bulwark came through for me. Once again, I highly recommend buying that Bulwark before attempting any moneymakers in the wilderness, especially if you're doing Wally bosses. And unfortunately, we are approaching the saddest part in the 10 hours. We did get attacked by Doge Hunter 2, and he was able to claw us out and kill us. This was completely my fault. I didn't put on my tank gear fast enough, and I also wasn't paying attention to what weapon he had. If I saw that he had claws, I could have easily put up Protect from melee and most likely survived, but I was just lazy flicking between mage and range for the most part. But it wasn't all bad news. Shortly after losing about 600k, we did manage to kill Callisto at 152, and she blessed us with the dragon pickaxe that is worth currently 5.2 mil, so happy day. I was worried that we were going to do the 10 hours and not see the dragon pickaxe as a drop, but for once we were actually lucky and we managed to get it, so it's all good. The last day of recording was extremely laggy, more than usual. As you see here, I was clicking to move and I just couldn't move. I was frozen here, and this is where it went downhill very quickly. By some odd stroke of luck, there were two PKers here and they managed to teleblock me. I definitely hit the Royal Seed Pod, but it didn't work. As you can see, I tried to put on my tank gear, but it didn't register. I tried to eat the bruise and the dark crabs and none of that was registering, and then I got hit with the connection lost screen. But by some miracle, I logged back in fairly quickly and I was able to combo eat with the dark crab. If I didn't have those dark crab from Callisto's drops, I probably wouldn't have made it out. And luckily these guys didn't know that they had to hit Venenatus, so Venenatus actually helped me out quite a bit, and I was able to run to the green dragons even though there was a lot of people there, and I was able to get the log out. But still, this was a very close escape. The connection actually almost killed me, which would have been very unfortunate, but we did manage to get away, so pretty happy about that. And speaking of dark crabs, I kind of like the lore behind some of the drops that she has. I mean, she has dark crabs on her drop table because there's a dark crab fishing spot nearby, and then she also has dragon bones on her drop table, which is pretty interesting. It kind of makes me think that she was able to kill and eat some dragons that used to live here, so it's pretty crazy. And as you can see here, we are getting PK'd again, and I was just so used to getting teleblocked that I thought I could have easily teleported out at 30 wilderness, but I just went all the way to green dragons and tried to tank. So this guy was probably wondering what I was doing. Maybe he thought that I didn't have a teleport for 30 wilderness, but yeah, I was just so used to being teleblocked that I assumed that I was. Again, I just want to say that there were so many PKs during this 10 hours. Definitely don't expect it to be a free ride in the wilderness since DMM is going, because it is still packed, I assure you. But with that being said, that is the end of the 10 hours, and thanks to Runelight's little plugin that we have here, we can see all of the loot that we got from our 174 kills. Unfortunately though, Runelight doesn't track the coin drops since I was using the Ring of Wealth to automatically put them in my inventory, so here's an estimation of how many coins I think I got. It might not be exactly accurate, but it's pretty close. So after about 10 hours we did manage to get around 20.4 mil, so not bad at all. Now that we've done the price check, we can just go ahead and kill this imp since he is ruining our video. Cheer one last time, take his loot, and go to the next screen to calculate how much money we made from the 10 hours. So if we subtract the cost of supplies, which was around 3.2 mil, from the amount of money that we made, which was around 20.4 mil, we have a grand total profit of 17,272,179 GP. Also, feel free to subtract 600k from that total amount because we did die once throughout this 10-hour video. So we actually managed to make pretty close to what the wiki was estimating here. As you can see, the wiki was going based off of 20 kills per hour, and we managed to get around 17 kills per hour, so our good luck with the dragon pickaxe definitely helped out our GP per hour. I'm also excited to announce that the guys at GE Tracker reached out to me and wanted to do some sort of sponsorship type deal. and I thought I'd go ahead and say yes, since I think it's a lot better than the private server deals that I've been getting offered lately, even though they do offer some pretty nice money. Now, I'm not getting paid to make this video, but if you guys feel like helping me out, feel free to visit the link down in the description below. The site has some pretty helpful tips and nice little graphs that show you how to flip and merch, and you could probably make a decent amount of money, so feel free to check them out if you want. And who knows, sometime in the future I might make a video on the site showcasing some of the stuff that you can do on there, because when I first started playing, merching was actually a nice little moneymaker that I used to boost up my bank. I just want to say thanks for checking out the video, and if you enjoyed it, please consider giving it a thumbs up and possibly a subscription, and as always, I will catch you guys in the next episode.